partnership with Airbnb work?
Well, Detour, what we make are these immersive location-based audio walks through cities. We've been doing it in San Francisco for a couple of years and just recently have started branching out to other major travel destinations, New York, Chicago, LA, and a lot more cities coming soon. I've known the folks at Airbnb for a while, and they were fans of Detour, and they've been gearing up to become a more end-to-end travel service, and thought it would be a great match. So what we're doing is we're producing a number of walks exclusively for the Airbnb community. You can get them in the Airbnb app. So Airbnb has their immersive experiences where you actually hang out with a local, sometimes for multiple days. Then they have things like lists in the app or what they call insider guides that are again by some kind of authoritative, authentic local. And we're kind of in the middle. We're something for when you show up in a destination and you're looking for something to do spontaneously that feels immersive and experiential. And that's what we're trying to do.
Listening to a tour of the Haight-Ashbury neighborhood in San Francisco, it's very personalized, as you say. There's a narrator who grew up there and, recounting the Grateful Dead and visits. I mean, talk to me about why this is what you wanted to do after Groupon.
Yeah, well, it's the Haight-Ashbury. We actually have a tour there, and the narrator is a fellow named Peter Coyote, who's now a movie actor, but before he was in a seminal group leading up to the Summer of Love called the Diggers, and was really part of that community in the 60s. And so we try to give you access to somebody who you just otherwise would never be able to spend time with, and they're showing you the neighborhood through their eyes. Like, it's closer to walking in another person's shoes than you can experience any other way. And so for me, part of what got me going about Groupon was the idea that the discounts, the 50% off discounts that we were giving for these local services, whether it was a session in a sensory deprivation tank or a bus tour to Gary, Indiana from Chicago, were things that maybe you wouldn't otherwise do if it wasn't for this crazy killer deal that came along. And we're kind of a force against all of the forces that are pulling you deeper into the screen. And this is kind of a continuation of that for me. I love the idea of building things that make the real world entertaining, that give people a reason to get out of the house before Oculus and its friends just pull us in. We just fully enter the matrix.
So how big a business do you think this can be, and how much do you think the partnership with Airbnb will supercharge the business?
It's hard to know. I mean, a lot of these early tech companies, when I remember doing early day projections when we were just in Chicago of what Groupon was going to be, and I would use like restaurant.com or coupons.com as my comparables, and I thought maybe if we were lucky we'd be a $30 million business in 3 or 4 years. But we had built something that really resonated with people, and it combined some existing markets and created a little bit of a new one. And that's what we're trying to do with Detour. We're trying to build something that is an essential part of the way that you experience cities when you go there, and is just something that everybody wants to use. The nice thing about the partnership with Airbnb is it gives us hopefully a level of exposure that's difficult to do. The hard thing about this business is you think of audio tours, or even you think of walking tours, and you're kind of like, no thank you. Your relationship with those concepts is maybe going on a mediocre museum audio tour or something like that. It's not something you would go out and do for its own sake.
Yeah. The story of Groupon is, as we've talked about before, legendary for the highs and the lows, and I'm curious what your reflections on that, what you're doing similarly and differently now that you're on your next act.
Similarly and differently. There's a lot of stuff that just any kind of experience is going to make you smarter. And dumber, by the way. I mean, I often think about the way that Groupon happened was I was working on another startup called The Point that was a collective action platform for crowdfunding and group action that we then pivoted into Groupon. Well, knowing what I know now, if somebody showed up in my office and said, here's my deck for The Point, the original idea, I would say that's never going to work. That's a fundamentally terrible idea. But it was through the kind of ashes and rubble of that idea that Groupon was born. So I try not to learn too much. I try to stay stupid. Yeah, my team thinks I'm doing a good job at that.
Interesting. I mean, have you been following Groupon since? I mean, I mentioned the stock is up 30%. They've got a new commercial campaign.
They do? Yeah.
Yeah.
How is it?
I think it's actually pretty good. There were some not so great commercials in the earlier days.
Oh, what are you talking about? I was thinking about that. We did this, remember we did that Super Bowl commercial?
I do remember that.
People didn't love that. People didn't love that. It was really offensive.
But look, you've been through the trenches.
Yeah.
And so I guess, what does that kind of experience bring to Detour, and sort of how do you sort of, teach your employees about expectation, so to speak?
Well, I mean, I think we have a real faith in at the company in sticking it out for just believing in the fundamental idea of what we're doing, the value of what we're doing, and letting that play out. So we work with no less of a sense of urgency, but there's a certain patience and acceptance about what it is that we're trying to do, and seeing that it's a valuable product that I guess comes from having had that similar experiences before.
We've talked about the rise of the experience economy, and Airbnb is part of that. I'm curious how you think, so there's a lot of uncertainty around Trump. The markets have actually responded well. How do you think tourism will be affected in 2017, given what's going on with Brexit and Trump and this sort of wait and see that everyone seems to be feeling?
Gosh, we're lucky. We're still small enough that those kinds of macro shifts, we probably won't feel them too much as a startup, right? We're still a small company, but I mean, look, I think for me, if there's one takeaway personally from what happened, it's just understanding the degree to which there's no substitute for truly empathetic experiences. And I think Airbnb is a great example of a company. There's few companies doing more to help facilitate those and make them easier to have, where you can actually spend time and experience what it's like to be with another person that maybe isn't so different from you. And we're very much trying to take that ethos out of the home and into the streets, so that you can go on a walking tour of Brooklyn with somebody who's a Hasidic Jew whose family has lived there for generations and experience a day in their life like you really couldn't in any other way. And so that's a big part of what we're trying to do.